mindset, habit, structure to not only take it because it sort of showed up, but to actually look for it, open to change, and then capitalize on it when it presents itself.
Hello there, it's me, Steve Meller, and welcome in to Growth Ready, the podcast that allows high performers to reveal the reality behind what it means to ready yourself for growth, the personal and professional challenges along the growth journey, while also allowing the high-performance executive coach in me to satisfy his curiosity toward what drives optimal performance. On this episode, we welcome in wealth advisor and financial life planning expert, Dany Martin. And as a self-proclaimed student of life, Dany prides himself on building the type of trusted relationships that can allow him to overcome change, live life through optimism, and leave a legacy of a life you want to leave. Okay, folks, welcome back in to another episode of Growth Ready. And I'm so excited to be welcoming in a fellow Louisianian resident, obviously not Louisianian. Everyone knows that I'm not that. But I am so excited to have Dany Martin joining us from Shreveport, Louisiana today. And Dany, before we go any further about learning more about you, brother, tell us, what does it mean to you to be growth ready?
Yeah, Steve. So I've listened to your podcast and I knew this question was coming and I wrote down all of these ideas and I'm not going to read any of them. So I'm sort of just going to shoot from the hip. I think for me, it's having the mindset, the habits, and then the structure to not only handle sort of the growth that might be in front of you, but for me to actually seek it out. I think you need to be open to change. I think you need to be adaptable. And then when all of that happens, I think there's got to be a way for you to capitalize on that opportunity. So mindset, habit, structure to not only take it because it sort of showed up, but to actually look for it, open to change, and then capitalize on it when it presents itself.
Oh, there's a word that you use in there, seek. You said seek at one point. I love that. I'm always looking for a word that's a little bit more unique to what people would typically say. And something about that makes me immediately have to assume that maybe you've had a life where you've looked ahead for opportunity more so than maybe look backwards. I'd love to maybe just start there and maybe you can confirm or disconfirm my immediate intuition.
Yes, so that's a correct statement. My father, a little background on me, grew up, I'm really the product of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. So my real dad, high school graduate, barely. He says the only thing kept him out of college was high school. But entrepreneur, had some financial struggles early on, started his own business. And then my stepfather, who I've had for 38 years now, great man, college educated, was the reason I went to get, my master's degree and pursue education and that type of thing. So I've sort of got both backgrounds. I have always been around the Robert Kiyosaki's and the Zig Ziglars and the mindset practice just through network marketing is my dad's career for 33 years. And so I've sort of grown up in that space of positive thinking and, as an athlete, not really worrying about the last strikeout or the missed free throw, but kind of focusing on the next one. And so that's really translated into business, my family, my wife, my kids, and all that type of stuff. So I'm not where I'm always wanting to seek stuff out, but I can't help myself but to really focus on sort of what's next, just as a natural evolution of the way that I was raised.
Yeah, interesting. And to hear that, two very different influences from such a young age, where it would be understandable that really you could go in either path, right? Very, very easily you could be forward thinking, be ambitious, think that, hey, whatever education's out there, I want to go pursue it. Or you could say, hey, you know what, I'm going to take the risks and I'm not going to go down the educational route or whatever it might be. And I'm just curious, when you now reflect and see where you are today, what's that done for you in the role that you have? Obviously, as a wealth advisor, we're going to learn a little bit about that. But here you are sitting down with people that will always, I have to assume, come to the table more often than not, seeing what they're doing maybe is some form of risk. And typically someone like you that can obviously pull from two very different books in terms of how you were raised can be I would have to assume, a very valuable asset at that point. So how do you bring that experience to the table in what you do now?
Yes, so for me, it's really being that voice of reason and not necessarily focused on the past. And by the past, I really mean people's thoughts of what they've been taught in their past, right? So whether it be political or religious or where they were raised or what they think about the world, to sort of remove myself from that and say, I know how you feel. But if we just took a snapshot today and looked forward, those things might be real to you, but they're not probable to happen in the future, or it may not affect you the way you think it affects you. And so it's definitely benefited me as an advisor, managing, people's money in retirement and their kids' futures and things like that. But as a business owner, it sort of has kept us moving forward, not just status quo, into where we are, but it's really the making sure that I'm receptive to the way someone feels, but then to also sort of look at it with a different lens and acknowledge it, but then maybe shift their direction to a way that's more positive, or to a way that was how I was raised and taught that they maybe weren't. Because we're taught early on, be good, go to school, make good grades, get out, go to college, get a job, work 40 years, retire, and then live on half of what you couldn't live on when you were working. And that's sort of what everybody is taught. And so just to have a little bit of a different mindset my entire life, it's interesting to me that a lot of people they've never even thought about what they think about. Like they just sort of do what they've always done, and sort of bring that to them opens up their eyes and their mind and their heart to maybe see it a different way, and then inspire them to actually do something that you and I both know that they can do something they didn't think they could. They just never thought they could, So
Right.
that's how it's translated.
Yeah, I appreciate that notion of just, firstly, when you initially responded, you talked about this notion of it being real to you, and for someone to say, whenever you're asking questions about someone's finances and their experiences and what they've been exposed to over the years in terms of the good and the bad, the ugly, you're able to sit there and listen to the information knowing that what's being provided to you is through their lens and it's through their experience, and it's not necessarily for you to over define or over correct at that point. It's just to simply acknowledge and embrace the fact that, hey, that's your reality, and there's nothing I can do to change the fact that that has been your reality. But moving forward, there are probabilities that you have maybe never considered. And I think, let's just step out of the financial world for a moment. That's life. That's the growth process right there in a nutshell, is that everything that's brought you to this point has been your reality. But in order to move forward, there must be other things that we can consider probable and possible. Otherwise, we're just gonna throw in the towel. We're not gonna really give it a lot of our time, a lot of our attention. No planning, no thought, and just listening to you talk through this. I'm curious, where has that happened for you in your life, to where you've had to find those ways to say, hey, despite the hand that I've been dealt or the situation I find myself, I'm looking at it this way, I'm choosing to look at it this way, and this is how I'm going to approach it moving forwards.
Yes, so I'm fortunate I've never personally experienced trauma to the scale where I can remember like a sibling passing away or some major event in my life where I had to just shift my entire mindset. Like personally, I've not had that. So, and I'm blessed for that. I'm not sorry for that. But I do think I know I don't know everything. I've always been very open to learn from other people. So obviously taught early on, surround yourself with people who are smarter than you are. And so what I've done, not only for our kids, I've got adopted children, for our business and our clients, is maybe I don't know the answer, but trying to be a person who can connect them with someone who has maybe been in their situation and has come out the other side, whether it's a troubled child, whether it's someone who didn't think they could retire, whether it's a marriage that's maybe on the rocks. Like, I may not know, but I've sat in this chair long enough to know that other people have had this problem, whatever it might be. Would you be open to getting in touch or having a connection with the person who's actually been in this chair and sort of making that connection? And then through that process, I learn myself, right? So if I listen into what people are going through and how they've solved their problems, then maybe I've not actually been through it in my own right, but I've experienced it through other people and then can pass that knowledge on. And you don't get that. I've been in the business 18 and a half, almost 19 years. You can't get that your first 5 or 10 years. It takes time and experience and meetings and encounters with people to learn that. And I've not learned half of the things, hopefully, that I will, but I've learned enough to be able to sort of know where to go and get the advice that's needed when someone needs it, and be confident enough to say, I don't know, but I know where to get it. And I think that's been a big, reason for the growth personally in business and all of that type of stuff, is just not knowing everything. If I had done any of the things that I've done, if I had a business plan completely drawn out on everything that I was doing, I would have never even started. I would have looked and go, well, that mountain's too big. I'm going to stay over here. We just sort of take it day by day and little by little and look up. And I approach it the same way with people when they come to me, is accept what they feel, give them compassion to whatever it is, good or bad, and then sort of direct them in a way that maybe challenges the thinking behind the way they're feeling, good or bad.
Yeah, and I really, as someone who's very comfortable telling someone, hey, I don't know, but I know someone who does, I'm really intrigued immediately by that appetite that you have to not only make that referral, but then actually kind of stick around for the cliff notes. It's just like, hey, yeah. I'm gonna make the referral, but I would be doing myself a disservice if I wasn't to somehow learn from whatever it is you're now going to learn from. Because here I am saying I don't know, but I could stop there and say I don't know if this person does and then walk away. But you're choosing at times to actually say, not only do I not know, and not only do I know the person, but I actually want to go with you. I want to learn with you, so that maybe next time I don't need to make the referral. I can have that information already. Or you still make the referral, but it's still nice to simply know and get that exposure to whatever that information is, huh?
Yep, to be completely aware of the people that I connect, that it's in both of their best interests to have that connection. So the worst thing I would ever do, whether it's a business relationship or anything, is to send them to someone, and then that turn and the person comes back and goes, why'd you send me to them? They made me feel. So the initial encounter is to sort of understand the way that not meeting, but the way that engagement goes, so that I can feel confident either doing it again or never doing it again, Sure. And so it's not that we join every single conversation, but there's a certain group of people in my life that I trust wholeheartedly that I would be okay sending, problems or concerns to when I hear them. And we hear a lot. I mean, I'm a financial advisor at heart. We're really glorified hand holders and counselors and marriage counselors. And, we go through death and divorce and birth and retirement and all these milestones. And with all those, yes, sure, money moves hands, but it's sometimes like the hardest thing anybody's ever been through. And when you do that constantly, time and time and time again, you start to feel that it's not all that different. A retirement and a death is really the same. It's just the change of the pattern that you've had up until this point changes, and the future looks different, and we're all scared of the unknown, which is ultimately what the future is. So if I can sort of open the door to the future based on experiences that I've had with other people, then it makes them less fearful to walk through that door. And that can be retirement planning or anything that we've talked about to this point. Now, I don't know how I do it or how I got there or what I do different. That's just the way that I think about it is I would be a fool to not pass on the knowledge that I've gained. I want to have an impact when I leave this place, and you can't do that if you just keep it all to yourself.
Yeah, and I've read that about you. You know, you consider yourself a student of life. You know, and you and I share that in common. Quite frankly, I say all the time, it's not an accurate way of how you would describe what social science is, but I joke that I'm a social scientist because for me, I just want to go out into society. I want to go out into the world and learn that way, as opposed to put me in a chair and have somebody lecture at me for an hour or whatever it might be. And I've been very fortunate to have that curiosity to open doors and to go learn from people and just be around people, even if they didn't ask me to be around half the time. Yeah. I just like to be in those environments. And something you touched on here with trusted relationships. And again, I'm again very blessed to have a lot of relationships built upon trust to this day. But I think you can agree with this. Those relationships don't become trusted relationships based on an interaction or a moment. It's typically lots of reps, lots of time, lots of effort and attention. When did you notice the power in your journey when you reflect on your years growing up? When did you notice the power of creating and building and investing in those trusted relationships?
Yes. So I guess early on as a child, being in the athletic world where you had to have teammates and you had to be around people who, you know, didn't look like you or grow up like you or drive what you drove or ate where you ate or thought like you think, you know. So it's like I was raised in an environment of playing baseball and basketball all over the state and all over the country and just being around different people. But to be honest, I'm from South Louisiana. I was raised one way. I really had a mindset. I thought I was open-minded, and I was to an extent. But meeting my wife, Lindsi, who we've been together 18 years in March, she really she thinks for herself. And I know that sounds sort of crazy, but a lot of us, including myself, sort of thought what my parents thought. And I was fortunate that the good part of what my parents thought were positive thinking and habits and self-talk and all of this entrepreneurship. But I was also bound by what my friends thought and what the neighbors thought and what everybody that I had surrounded myself, I didn't even know. And so when I met Lindsi and she would ask me really hard questions, you know, like, well, why do you think that? It's like, well, it's what, I don't know, you know? And right. So I really at like the age of 23, 24, post-college, starting my career in the bank, started to really think for myself and not just take what everybody had sort of given me over my lifetime and just run with that, which I think is what a lot of people do unknowingly. And it's easy that way. It's easy to just do what you've always done and think how you've always thought and not go talk to those people, because then there might be some confrontation. I just want to sit over here in my little world because it's comfortable. And although comfortable is not where you grow internally, externally, that's just not where it comes from. And so really, to answer your question, meeting my wife and have her ask me hard questions got myself thinking about why I actually believed and did some of the things I did. And so we've been on that journey together for 18 years. And, you know, that's sort of where it's come from, is the second half of my life so far.
That's, it's funny. My wife, she has this, she describes Steve as her name's Brittany, pre-Brittany and post-Brittany versions of Steve. And I just go, yeah. Can you give me a little credit here? Like I worked on myself a little bit. It's like, no. Everyone says you weren't that nice to be around before me, and now you're way nicer to be around. Yeah. But I'm hearing that in a very different way from you here. It's like that, having someone come into your life and expose you to difficult questions and force you to answer questions that otherwise, had they not asked them, you wouldn't even thought about this stuff. It goes all the way back to what you said here at the beginning. And I think this is a really interesting takeaway here for people listening, is when you look at the relationships you have, are they challenging you? Not in a way where you're having arguments all the time. Are they challenging you in terms of, is someone coming into this, is the other person in this relationship asking questions that actually make you grow a little bit? Sure, you can have your silliness and your fun and all that kind of thing, but once in a while, a little curveball now and again, what I'm hearing, Dany, is like that can actually be the root of those trusted relationships the more and more we experience that within them.
Yep, completely agree. So to that point, we work blue collar millionaires. We have a huge women clientele, in our industry and in the world. Half of the wealth is controlled by women, and by 2030, 70% of the wealth will be controlled by women, and 90% of decisions are made by women. And so we have understood that for 15 years. And so the third demographic we've started to work with the last 3 years are athletes. So whether it's NFL players, we actually have a former NFL player as part of our team. He spent 7 years with the Bengals and is now an advisor. We have an NFL Players Association designation. So we sort of found ourselves in this athlete world, and what we thought was going to be fun, and we show up to the games and we are in the locker room and doing all that kind of stuff. What we have found is they're kids. They're just kids that have come into some money, and their background is not what ours was or where we even are. And so we've had to create, basically breaking our planning process down. And my point is, one of the pages in our planning book is, we call it your starting five and your bench players. So we've sort of broken it down to the athlete. And so we try to get them to focus on, hey, like, you've got 5 people, you could have more, you could have less, but who are those people in your life that every time they call you, they don't want something? Doesn't mean that you don't love them, or they could be your spouse or your mom, but who are the people that you could call right now and say, hey, I've got a question, and their response is only to help you. And so we literally, and I don't have a copy of it, but it's a circle, and we put you in the center, and then it's like a spoke where you put, for me, it's Shannon, Philip, my dad, my wife, my business partner. Like, that's the 5. And I know I could call any of those 5, and they are on my team. Like, they don't want anything from me. We also have the bench, which is the people you love. They're on your team. They're for you, but every time they call, they need something. It's just $500, or can you invest in my business, or can you do this? And it doesn't make them good, bad, or indifferent, but we try to get these athletes. And now it's bled over into the normal clients, because it relates to everybody, is like, who are your starters? Like, who's your starting 5? Who do you have on your team? And focus on those people. And then right under that, why are they on your list? Like, why did you put the people on that list that are there? And just start to think about why they're there, and try to emulate that to other people so that you can be on as many starting 5s as possible.
I love that.
And that is the ultimate way of surrounding yourself with, positive people that are for you and that do hold you accountable. So what you mentioned was, asking tough questions. I think it's just accountability. It's just asking those tough questions. But that starting 5, if any of the listeners can have a takeaway, I would just urge you, get a piece of paper, write down 5 names of people that are on your side. Why'd you put them on there? And then try to emulate that. But then also keep that bench over here, because there's some people that might transition. They don't know that they're asking. You might have to have hard questions for them. And it just sort of builds out from there. But the starting 5 to me is really where it starts, because you're very aware of who is surrounding you. And then if you could understand why they are on your team, then you can then be the person that is hopefully on other people's team. Yeah. And that's how we've trained our athletes to just be aware of the people around them. But then again, retirees and divorcees and, widows and anybody at this point. Podcast hosts, right? Like, you got people that just everybody wants to be on your podcast because they want to promote their business on your show. It has nothing to do with you. They want to get their name out. And that's cool because you need it, but they're probably not going to be there tomorrow. So you just got to be aware of those people and focus on that is our thought process.
It's an awesome insight. It's specifically that you took it a little bit further as well, not just creating your own starting 5, but actually really encouraging people to say, how do you show up in this world where you can be on as many other people's starting 5s as possible? I mean, that's taking it to another level. That's optimizing the idea, which we're all about on the show. So I'd love that you took it to that point as well, because that's when we start to really get into, here we are thinking about ourselves, rightfully so, especially when it comes to something as important as our money. But what's the return then going to be for us? It's not going to be as simple as just protecting us from a healthy bank account. Like, what, by doing that, hopefully we're now freeing ourselves up to be a little bit more available in this world, because we're not now as distracted or sidetracked by the fact that we've got financial issues and we don't know who's on our starting five because we can't trust anybody and all this kind of thing. So I hear that, like that almost rally cry. It's like, take care of everything close to home first. And once you've got that, now look a little bit more outward. Now don't just say, okay, work's done, we're good. No, go one step further. Consider how you can then be of service, of value to those other people, and be on as many of the starting fives as possible. It's a beautiful idea. And I'm just curious, when you think about how you're showing up in this world and the work that you're doing, what are maybe one or two qualities that you're bringing to other people that you're aware of, Dany? And this is always tricky when I'm saying, hey, you need to say something nice about yourself now. What are some of those consistent elements of Dany Martin that people get, where you can say, hey, there's a world where I'm probably on a few people's starting fives as well?
Yes. So, and I actually asked my starting five why I would, like, what would they say has caused me, like, why would I be on your podcast? I sent all five of them. I'm going to be on this podcast. This is what it's about. Why do you think he wants me on that podcast? And what are your answers? So I got a couple of those answers back. Number one, generosity. So I'm not talking about myself, right, but my wife and I basically give everything that we've got away. Whether it's our time, whether it's our money, I've given a lot, and I don't publicly do it. I don't write a check and take a picture, but just nonstop generosity. And I've probably gotten back tenfold what I've given. So it might be 5 years from now, but what I was given 10 years ago at the time was a lot. Yeah. And now it's like a couple of weeks worth of work. Like, it's the amount that I was giving is I couldn't even tell you how much that's helped the business and helped my personal life. So generosity, by far, number one, and that's from other people telling me. The second is the positive, like, I'm non-confrontational. I ask tough questions, and I will state my opinion, but for the most part, I've been a yes man. If someone has a different idea, or they have an idea, whether it's my business partner, my wife, or she wants to remodel a house or buy a business, or our kid wants, like, whatever, I've always been yes. Like, if you think we should do it, who am I to tell you that that's a dumb idea? And some of them, most of them have worked. Some of them haven't, but that's the ones you learn from. So the two things I would say is generosity. And I don't just mean tithing to your church. I mean buying, when you go get donut holes for your babies, buy a $10 gift card, leave it at the counter, and just walk out. Like, stuff that people would never even know you did. And that fulfills your cup. The gratitude journal, I wrote thank you cards for a year. There's a guy, I think it's Mr. Thank You or whatever it was, but I wrote 3 thank you cards a day, every day for a year, to random people. And it made me feel so good, I stopped, right? So, like, but that's all surrounding the idea of gratitude and generosity. And then, simply just not killing other people's dreams, because ultimately their excitement is what sort of makes all the projects work. And if you pour water on their fire, of course it's not going to work. Here's the problem. Most people would rather say, I told you so, because they're too scared to do it themselves, or they actually don't want you to succeed. So they're going to say, you can't do that Airbnb. And what that really means is, I've been wanting to do an Airbnb, but I'm too scared, so I'm going to put my feelings on you so that maybe you don't succeed, because ultimately I don't want you to be better than me. And I'm like, no, just if you want to do it. Now, as a financial planner, I have to give, there's some financial things. If they come to me for, I've got a business idea, what do you think about it? Then it ultimately is the numbers of the business or the project. But then the other side is do you trust the person? Like, what's your gut say? Because I can't help that side. It just depends on how that person comes to me. But generosity, and then being a yes man to people's ideas, just to inspire them that they can do whatever they think they want to do, is sort of led to that.
Well, Firstly, I just applaud the level of homework that you did coming into this episode, for you to go to your starting five and say, what value am I bringing to this guy? I appreciate.
But I was
that.
curious. I'm like, what? I mean, he doesn't know our business. Like the business has grown and my family's grown, but like he doesn't even know why we've grown. Like why am I on this? Why would you think I'm on this? And that was the answers that they gave me. So
I love it. It's one of my favorite things about the show. Honestly, I don't necessarily publicize this part of it, but for me, it's about highlighting folks that otherwise would struggle to be highlighted. And I truly enjoy that. You talk about generosity. That's one of my ways of giving back. It's like, hey, we're learning so much from Dany today, and had we not done this, there's a whole bunch of folks that wouldn't be learning about this right now, and that's one of my favorite things to do. I almost want to challenge you on that yes man definition and call it optimism. That's kind of what I'm hearing as you're explaining it. It's just like there's this, I can see it. Someone's coming to you and they're giving you the idea and they're giving you the vision and they're really getting you excited, and you see their excitement. Who are we to sit there as the pessimist and say, no, don't do that. That's crazy. And to your point, putting our stuff on them. And again, I tell this story all the time when I'm on stage, is that when I started my business on personal development here in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 4 out of every 5 people looked at me and said, and you want to do that in Baton Rouge, Louisiana? Really? It's just like, hey, if I listened to the 4 out of the 5, I would never have done it, and here I am today with a thriving business because I just said, hey, the 1 in the 5, they seem open to it. They seem like it's a good idea, and so I'm kind of hearing that from you in your story. And before I get towards the closing part of this now, man, I do want to go back to change. I want to talk about change a little bit because, again, so much of what people are bringing to you when they sit down with you, especially for the first time, is in that big bucket of change, saying like, hey, this is different. This is out of the ordinary. I'm not used to this. It's going to cause some sort of friction, let's say, within the way I do life. So when you think about your journey and how you've experienced change, what are you pulling from? What are you able to rely upon when you think about maybe 1 or 2 areas in your journey where you say, okay, when we went through this, or when I went through this is what change looks like. I know it can feel like this, and I can therefore empathize with these folks in these moments.
Yes. So, Pastor Philip Dees, have you ever heard the name Philip Dees? Does that name ring a bell? So he is a former football player at Evangel High School here in Shreveport, played for North Carolina, superstar athlete, started, a program at North Carolina, just spreading the gospel, and anyway, became our pastor, and he's more of a football coach, right? So he's a friend of mine now, does coaching, corporate coaching and things like that. And so he's really always talked about the house habits. So we have 12 house habits that we, as a church, which I've now adopted as an office and a family of, love big, live on, protect unity, which is the starting 5, practice honesty, give generously, stay on mission, all these things that sort of are the daily habits that lead to these big decisions. And so when change starts to happen for me, I'm very short-term focused. So like when we went to adopt our boys, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do 10 years from now? It was, what are we going to do tomorrow? Like, are they going to eat breakfast? Can they get to school? Did they get in trouble? Can they go to sleep? Okay, what are we going to do tomorrow? Did they get like, it's just a daily thing. And I really, in my mind, it's come down to, if you create the right mindset and habits, knowing that change is going to come, the only thing constant is change. I don't know who said it, but it's a famous quote. If you know that change is coming, then it's sort of like pain in a marathon or something. It's like, I knew you were going to show up. Like I knew you were coming and I'm ready for it. And I don't know what it looks like on the other side, but not trying to get so caught up in what the future holds and what it looks like. It's like, no, adaptability, right? That's the open to change and being adaptable, meaning I understand it's going to be here. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm going to adjust and adapt based on what I can control today. Like I'm going to be where my feet are. I'm not going to worry about tomorrow or 3 months from now, and we're just going to take it on the chin and figure it out the best way we can, and then sort of look back and go, oh, we've been through this before a little bit. What did we learn the first time? And then maybe as we grow and as I get older, change some of the things that I didn't do right in the past. But I've just never thought of this. I've never been scared of it. And most of the things that have happened from a change standpoint, ultimately the end result has been a positive thing. Going through it, maybe not so much, right? Somebody getting sick, coming out healthier and taking care of themselves on the other side. Somebody getting in trouble. They probably needed to get in trouble, and now they're better on the other side. But in that moment, we could have said, oh, I knew that was going to happen, and no, it's like, okay, we're here now. What do we do now? And then what are we going to do tomorrow? And then what do we do the next day? And I think it's really around those habits of saying, okay, I know that when somebody comes to me and I get asked a difficult question and I've got the opportunity to tell a lie. No, house habit number 6 is practice honesty. Like, I've already taught myself I'm going to be honest, so I don't even have to decide, right? Or it's like training for a marathon. It's like, man, I want to quit. It's like, no, you already declared that you're going to stay on mission. Like, I've already decided. Like, I don't have to decide in that moment because I've already trained myself to give generously and stay on mission and be honest and do all these things, right? So you don't have to decide in that moment. And I think the reaction of someone is different than like the response, right? A lot of people, myself included, I have a look, like my wife, I'll look at her like it's not the nicest. I'm not mean, but it's just I was taught, like, and she'll say, you got the look, we're not fighting, but it's like that was a reaction. If I really could just take the time to respond instead of react, then that's, always going to lead to a better result. But you have to have the habits somewhere ingrained in you that when that change or that problem happens, that you've already sort of pre-decided, like, oh no, I'm going to be fine because this is what I've taught myself for 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't have to decide that. Sort of like not drinking or eating healthy. If you decide 100% to not drink or 100% to eat healthy, then when somebody brings you a beer or a French fry, you go, no. But if you're 99%, then you leave that door open to go, one's not going to hurt, right? So if you sort of take that to your whole life, I think that it all eventually just sort of the decisions, the good ones you have more of than the bad ones, and ultimately we talk about legacy a lot, like living the life that you want to leave is our definition of what legacy is. And so when I'm no longer here, what are people going to say about me? And we all have this huge thing that we want. And ultimately, it comes down to every day, am I living the life that I want to leave? And if you just do that, then your legacy is sort of written for itself. But we're all too caught up on, I'm going to have $1 billion business. It's like, no, man, call one client and check on their grandbaby. Like that's, that's how you build $1 million business, is just checking on so-and-so's granddaughter. And I just think that the whole world, and then social media, and you get influences, like all that stuff, and we just really have to just bring it back to ourselves and have a predetermined decision so that when something happens, you've already decided what the outcome is, and you just have to do it.
Yeah, I love the idea of the predetermined decision, but something about the short-term focus with change as well. At the heart of that, it makes me realize how repeatable the response to change then can become when we make it short term, because those initial 1 or 2 steps that you take, if you do really focus on where your feet are right now as the change is happening, you're going to be able to recall that because you were so in it and you were so focused on just the 1 or 2, as opposed to just allowing the chaos of change to overwhelm you, get so far down the road that you're just flying by the seat of your pants through the whole experience, praying that you come out the other end. And even if you do, you've learned very little for it because you just weren't really in it while it was happening. And it's giving you that to everything that you've alluded to already. These life lessons, right? It's giving you those life lessons as you're going through them. It makes it easier for you to recall them if and when that similar sort of experience comes down the road. And again, the idea of the legacy that you want to leave, the life you want to leave, I think anybody listening to this right now can sit and really challenge themselves on that. I think legacy is something we don't discuss anywhere near enough. Nowhere near enough. And you know, for me personally, I'm also a Christian, and I happen to, in church, probably on a week-to-week basis, these kind of discussions come up for me in some way, shape, or form. It's what have I been doing this week? What am I intending to do next week? It's a beautiful way just to kind of like check in with another person who's equally as invested in this notion of legacy and how we live our life. Just to go back to your word from earlier, like, where's your accountability at this point? Like, as you check in with this person on a Sunday morning or whenever it might be for you, where's your accountability at this point within your life, and what is that looking like in terms of the legacy that you're going to leave? It's coming through in abundance as you speak through this.
Yeah. And you have to have accountability, not people that just tell you what you want to hear, right? Mm-hmm. You got to be accountable to people who are really looking out for you. It starts with, you know, as there's a book, Dr. David Stoop, called Rethink How You Think. And so I know, and I don't have a lot of time, and I'm not an expert, but basically everything we're taught, we learn before the age of 6, like our subconscious. And I know you've had guests on that's talked about that before, but we try to control our whole day using our conscious brain. Well, 99.9% of our decisions are subconscious, mm-hmm. right? And so if you've been taught for 6 years of your life, which is why it's ultra important, I think, to like declare this over young children, because if that's what they're taught, but it's been proven that what you've been taught can actually be pulled apart and then rewired. Mm-hmm. And so that's the belief system. And so the issue that I had and that other people could possibly be going through if they respond differently to business or change or an upset client is they go from action to response, because their belief has never been challenged. And so if you really think about, like, somebody cut me off in the car on the street and I got mad at them, like, there's a belief there that, like, I control the road and my dad used to do the same thing. It's not like, well, maybe they got a sick child. If they had a sick child headed to the hospital, you'd be like, go ahead. You know, it's just the way you thought. And so if people would think about what they're thinking about and try to challenge their beliefs, they don't have to change all of them, but at least challenge and understand why you think how you think, then you can practice that when something happens to you, the action, the response could be different, because the middle part, that belief, was something that was so ingrained into you that the response is something that was maybe what you wished it would have been, mm-hmm. you know, instead of just getting upset, you've sort of changed that belief, which has then led to the response. And that goes across all aspects of life and business and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, and there's never been a bigger time for us to be practicing that, because we've never been more susceptible to falling into a lane of thought that we can't get out of, mainly because of, again, you referenced it very passively before, social media. You know, our phones literally are adapting to the way we think now, and now we're just being suffocated by this one way of thinking, and it's a scary future when you look at it that way. And so the more we have conversations like this and we're able to put this out to the world and encourage people, like, hey, you know, just challenge the way you think or rethink the way you think. For me, I pride myself on that. It's one of my favorite things about this podcast is every single, I got 200, you're around 250 now, 250 conversations where I just be like, someone's going to say something that's different to what I believe while I'm talking on this show. And I'm better for it now, you know, and now I get to take that out and put it out to the world. And hey, if other people are forced to think differently because of that one insight, awesome. You know, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to disturb anything that you're doing. If anything, to your point earlier, it's going to challenge you enough that maybe it might provoke some change. And because of that change, you're going to come out the other side better for it. Dany, listen, man, when you talk about generosity, you've given me a whole bag of it here in the 42 minutes that we've been talking. I'm so appreciative for it. I know how busy you are. And in terms of just everything that's happening in your world at the moment, is there anything that you can maybe shed some light on in terms of best ways for us to learn more about anything that you're doing, or anything that you might just want to maybe highlight here in closing?
Man, I would just say encourage everybody to just think about their own life and like what they're doing. And ultimately, you know, people talk about their why, and if your why is not big enough to make you cry, you probably need it. Like, all those things they're all true. Mm-hmm. Pick one, you know, just pick one thing that you want to do this month, or maybe for the next 12 months. Pick one thing that can be better, or maybe take one thing away that you wish you wouldn't have done. And I think if you do that over a 12-month period, it'll work. As far as me and how, what I can do, I'm in Shreveport, I'm a financial planner, we're independent. Plan, Invest, Inspires our website. It's not why I came on here. But we've got some really cool things for podcasts around like mindset and crush everything and that type of stuff. So to the extent that your listeners are looking for other podcasts and it's not mine, we have what's called the Disruption Blueprint, which is, just the concept of like disrupt things. Like you're either going to be disrupted or you're going to disrupt. And so it's a lot of people that sort of have some good ideas as it relates to business and things like that. But it's called the Disruption Blueprint podcast. And I'm available if anybody ever needs anything, or, if they got a business idea and you want me to support it. Not financially, but emotionally. Just call me and I'll give you a thumbs up or something.
Man, like, talk about an open invitation based on some of the stuff you share with us. If you're just sitting there being like, man, I just need someone to get as excited as I am about my idea, I think you found your man. You found your man right here, Dany. So, brother, I appreciate the time. I'm definitely going to go check out Disruptive Blueprint podcast. That sounds like an awesome offering that you've got out there in the world. And again, just for someone who maybe was going around their 5 and asking, like, how can I bring value to this? You've brought an abundance of value. I really appreciate the time, and just best of luck with anything and everything in your world, my man.
Thank you, man. I love everything you're doing. It's awesome. I think, we need more positive stuff like this where people can learn. So it's been great to listen to all the episodes, and hopefully we get to meet in person. I'll tell my sister that I was on here and make her a little jealous. So I appreciate you having me on, and I'm still not sure why I'm here, but I appreciate it.
Hey, man. Appreciate the time. Thanks, brother.
Thank you, brother. Have a good one.
And my thanks again to Dany for joining us on this episode, and something that I believe is such a powerful message, especially as this episode comes out towards the end of 2024 and you look towards 2025 and start thinking to yourself, what could I be doing to be of such value where somebody else would consider making me part of their starting 5? Yes, we might want to do some work if we don't feel as though we have 5 people close to us in our world. No doubt that is some work that you need to be doing if you don't have that kind of support system already. But what would it mean to invest in yourself in a way where your value continues and consistently rises in a way where others can't help but want to see you as a valuable resource in whatever aspect of their life they could do with support? So what might that step of growth look like in your world, to where you can look in the mirror in the weeks and months and year to come and say, yes, whoever you are, you will be able to take value from who I am. I can be that kind of person for you. It takes a lot of work. It takes so many of these specific characteristics that Dany has emphasized throughout the course of this episode. But if you can start to be passionate and committed enough to the version of you that you're capable of becoming, there will be an absolutely no doubt whatsoever that in time you will become an asset to so many others. And what a wonderful way to give back than to simply be of such value that others want to put you on their starting 5. So my thanks again to Dany for joining us. I have no doubt that there's plenty of other insights throughout our discussion that you will have taken and considered to be of value that go beyond what I just shared there in the final minute or two. But I want to just encourage you all to really give that some reflection in terms of what you can be doing moving forwards into this new year, when you think about the value that you bring to others around you, so that you can be that pivotal for others to have around in their pursuit of growth. Thanks again for tuning in. If you're a first-time listener, firstly, appreciate you listening right up to the end, and so you can get my final insight. In addition to that, be sure to subscribe moving forward so that you can receive episode after episode coming your way in the weeks and months and years to come. My thanks again to Dany. My thanks again to you for listening. As always, best of luck in anything and everything you have going on in your world, and I look forward to doing this again with you very soon. Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to Growth Ready. If you liked what you heard and are feeling ready to grow, Be sure to leave a 5-star rating, subscribe to the show, and share the episode with someone you know is ready to fuel their growth journey today. We love our community, so don't hesitate to reach out to us at podcast@growthready.com. And until next time, we are Growth Ready, and you will be too.